Good morning, family. I wanted to come on this morning and say hello, happy holidays, and give you your word for the week. I don't want to tarry on too long, so I'll get straight to it. It's been on my mind for a little while. Um, but I wanted to talk specifically today to both femmes and masculines, however you identify, however you express yourself, but especially for femmes. Those of you who express or see yourself as more of the feminine type or as a woman, this is especially a message for you. Um, what is I know that a lot of us are kind of going through shifts and changes in our relationships and things like that. Especially when it comes to dating, people don't really know what's going on or how to date or who's supposed to go first and who's supposed to do what. And the reason for that confusion is that essentially the game changed in the middle of it, right? And so, from the masculine perspective, a lot of men, let's say, especially like 45 and under ish, um, according to what they thought they needed to do. Maybe it's going to school, getting a certain skill set, getting to be a particular age, having a family, whatever. They thought that that's all they had to do, quite frankly, because that's the way that we've set things up, and that's the way that they were told, and we all were told to some degree, that they would get what they wanted out of life. They would get their peace, they would get their happiness. If you check these boxes, then you'll get what it is you're after. Um, Around that's been changing, but especially around somewhere between 2008, 2010, that started to shift, and we really started to see a hard shift in 2018 with that. And basically, what happened is a lot of guys or masculines got to bat, right? So we're at the game, they're at bat, and they're ready to go. They're like, hey, I've done all the things, I've checked all the boxes, and I'm ready to go. And the game changed, right? They don't not really exactly sure how to date anymore. They're not exactly sure who's in charge of what. They're not exactly sure really how to move forward from where they are, thinking that they could build on what they've already done or what they've already achieved and move forward. What's happened is because the game has changed, or the rules of the game have changed anyway, a lot of the masculines have to reformat everything. In other words, they have to start from scratch. And part of that will come from the heart space. It will come from knowing what I want, not what this what we'll say society wants, not what my family wants, not what other men expect of me or what other masculines might expect of me. I have to do what's good for me, what's right for me, and what's good for my personal growth. And in order for me to move forward, whether that's with the practical things, getting a job, finding love, and so on, I have to be my heart, right? What it is I truly want, who it is I truly am, has to be in agreement with what I do, right? So the feminine, that heart space or that love space, has to be in agreement with my masculine, what I do, who I am in the world. Otherwise, I cannot do. If this space, this heart space, is not in alignment with who I am, then I cannot do. I cannot move forward. No matter how many instructionals I watch, no matter how many check boxes I check, essentially there is no moving forward without that. Now, for the femmes, in order, especially if you're in a relationship or you're getting into relationships or something like this, you're trying to be in relationship with a masculine, what it is you have to understand is that the traditional way of doing things, right, with the masculine leading, um, uh, specifically doing things in a way where you're trying. The end game for most femmes is to get to a place where we are married and there's a masculine in charge, right? At the very least, we'll say equal partners, but quite honestly, even for those of us who are very spiritual, attuned, and evolved, still want to be in these traditional relationship roles because that's what society has taught us is the value of a femme. Hey, I'm a valuable femme, and so because I'm a valuable femme, I have a masculine who leads and provides for me. Okay, that's dying. in some way, great shape, form, or capacity, that's not going to continue. What has to happen at this juncture is that in a lot of ways, the femmes have to lead out. And I can kind of hear the collective groaning already, because it's like, damn, Ava, we done already did, so much of this, and we always got to do this, and we always got to do that. And that kind of speaks to exactly what I'm saying. Aside from what society has told us, the masculine is in charge and it leads, and it can. It has always been, always been the heart that tells the doing aspect of us what to do. Okay, so if your heart space isn't in it, if your heart isn't in something, you're gonna burn out, right? Or you don't have any. People say things. I don't have any inspiration. I don't have any motivation. I don't have this or that. It's like that stuff comes from the feminine. Inspiration, desire, the want to go out and do something comes from being in the feminine or having access to that feminine space. So suffice it to say, as femmes, if you're leading out, the reason why you're going to have to lead is because in this collective anyway, most of the femmes have done some deep work already. And it's not to say that masculines haven't done work, that's not the point. But you've done enough work or the kind of work that is conducive to where we're moving into, right? And so because you've already experienced this deep, likely soul or gut-wrenching inner spiritual work, you know what it looks like to do it. The masculine, however, has not had the opportunity to do that loosely, okay? Has not had the opportunity to do that primarily because they've been so focused on being that leader or being in charge or knowing what to do or protecting or surviving or whatever. And so because for a lot of us femmes, we've had the opportunity or have been in spaces, for better or worse, we sort of alchemize our lesser role in society by using that smaller space to do that inner work. Now that we've done that inner work, we also have our masculine on point. And so we can get up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make my way in the world from a place where I know my heart is coming from. Okay, so my masculine and my feminine, my heart and my mind, my ego and my soul, so on, they're in alignment or they are at least talking to each other at this point. For the masculines, that has not quite happened yet for a lot of masculines, not all, but for a lot of them, that has not happened yet. And so what you're going to see in dating and in your committed life and in your relationships is a little bit of a wabi-sabi, because somehow they have to figure out how to do what it is that they need to do to survive in the world and so on. And do that work, okay? And most of us femmes know that it is extremely difficult to even make a living and do that work at the same time. This is why monasteries used to exist. This is why the church used to take people in on hard times, is because a lot of times those hard times come from doing this inner work. That being said, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to move into this place. And you need to know that because of that, to be kind, to be compassionate, to be patient, and to give them as much space as possible, because the more space you give them to do this work, the more they'll be able to do, clearly. Let's look at my notes to make sure that I'm kind of tracking here. Okay, so the trick with this is that obviously they have to choose to do this. The masculine has to choose to do this work. You can't make them do it. You can't force them to. You can't any of that. And I know a lot of women specifically are already saying, well, I've talked to them and I've done this, with femmes in general too. I've talked to them or I've done this and we have this conversation, 8 million times and they still won't do X, Y, Z. Give it some time. For a lot of you, it's about giving it time. This also requires more work from us, as like I was saying, we have to get rid of any preconceived notions of um, our value in relationships as it relates to the masculine, right? And so you have to be very, very careful about putting them in a situation where they have to choose between, quite frankly, covering you in some societally accepted way and doing their work. Don't make them have to choose between one or the other. There is going to be a level of maturity and a level of insight that is required from both of you, but especially from the femmes, in order to allow this transformation to happen. Like I said, this is going to cause some upsets, but I do have some dates here. So if I was talking about before, 2018 to 2022 being class, this is where we learned, I'll back up. As a species, we are evolving. Our job is, as any species really, but especially as humans, is to evolve, to grow, to mature, to become better beings, essentially. This is part of that process, okay? And so from 2018 to 2022 was an opportunity for us to really look at what needs to be released or adapted or brought back on or invented or whatever in order for us to move forward. That was class. That's where we learned about ourselves. That's where we learned about each other. That's where we learned about, oh snap, something that happens in China can affect me, right? Collaborative effort. We learned about it. We learned all the things. COVID was an intensive on how to be a human, okay? 2023 through 2024, this next year, is basically exams. And what these exams are about is choosing from the heart, right? Whatever the heart wants, whatever the soul wants, whatever it needs, whatever it desires, getting in touch with that, and then bringing that masculine online in alignment, right? So it's about choosing or getting in touch with these desires and then getting in alignment with the doing of it so that you can manifest, as we say, so that you can bring into the world not only that which you desire, but if it's coming from the heart truly and genuinely, what you desire will also help other people, right? So we wanted to break this pattern where we were doing things from the masculine, from the ego or whatever, where we were just going out and doing stuff. Well, I got to do this because somebody told me I got to do it, or I got to get this job, or I got to do this, or I got to date this person, That's going away because it wasn't serving anyone. And so now we have to do from the inside out, right? Doing an alignment. So 2023 through 2024 are those exams. 2024 through 2026, the graduation of that is going to be pretty intense in and of itself. If you haven't done this, I would posit that those 2 years wouldn't be so horrible if you've done, okay, this work. But that 2024 through 2026 year is about bringing things into alignment, is about that masculine who's been doing all this work this year and all over the years with the feminine who's likely already done the bulk of that work together, bringing them together. And then 2024 through 2026, we're calibrating, collaborating, trying to figure out, okay, you do this, you do that. I don't like this, you do this. Okay. All of that is being regenerated, essentially. Okay. 2027 on-ish, roughly, we can actually begin putting those things into practice. We can actually start fully seeing what we worked for come to harvest. So I think that's pretty much all I needed to say on that. I just wanted to let you know that if you're having troubles, and even the most evolved of us, if you're having troubles in relationships or whatever it is, it's coming from somewhere. It's not just, some random bit of punishment. It's meant to force you to get right with yourself. And this is especially true for feminines. Like, I've had a lot of feminine clients who are like, well, I just want to know what the masculine's going to do. I just want to know what they're going to do. It's not going to work like that, honey. You got to know what you want to do. You got to know what your boundaries are. You have to know what you will and won't tolerate. And then you have to properly and genuinely, authentically mean it and communicate that to the masculine so he knows what his capacity is for the relationship. You can't wait for them to figure that out. You have to tell this is what it is. And then they come with their boundaries and say, this is what I got. And then y'all kind of Venn diagram that joint together. But you sort of sitting around and, staring off into space and waiting for that masculine to make one decision or another, it is not going to work. I can say on top of that, all of this Hallmark watching, the housewives shows, the any of that pop culture the nonsense about how relationships are supposed to work and what you expect from the masculine. I'm not going to do this and I ain't going to do all of that stuff. It will also, I've been seeing too a lot with Femmes, is that you're using societal norms or pressures from other Femmes to create your boundaries for you. So I've heard things like, oh, if he doesn't do XYZ by XYZ date, then, he's not for me. Or if, if this masculine doesn't do, text me back by this, all of that kind of stuff. Those are fake boundaries. Those are false boundaries. They're not going to get you what you want. They're likely to confuse the hell out of your masculine. Just don't do it. You're going to have to be your own best counsel. You're going to have to figure out what it is do I want, how do I want to get there, and what it is do I want from the masculine in relationship. So I believe that is all. I know it's not like the warmest, fuzziest holiday message. I don't know, maybe I'll even save it. Who knows? I might not release it until after. I don't know how I feel after I push this publish button. But if you have any questions, feel free to DM me, post a comment, let me know, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right, have a great day.